Hey guys, my name is Walden, and today I want to talk about what it's been like the last year to dedicate basically all of my free time to learning Japanese with immersion learning techniques. It's been quite a crazy journey so far, I think. I'm really happy with what I've managed to accomplish so far in this time period. But we'll get into all the details. First, I just want to say that I'm trying to just talk about like my feelings a little bit today, how much I think I've actually progressed in this year. So I'm gonna try to leave out all of the like specifics or like resources or stuff like that. I mean, it's impossible to not say some of it, but this is really not a tutorial in any way to follow what I'm doing. So yeah, with that out of the way, let's get started. So yeah, I mean, the first thing I want to say is I'm absolutely not fluent, which, may be a bit of a downer, but if you're learning Japanese, I mean, you know that it's an incredibly different language than English. It takes a really long time to learn. Most people take many, many, many years to learn it. And for me, I can judge that pretty easily. Like, I essentially can't have any real conversation in Japanese, but like that is part of my strategy. So what have I been doing for this year? I've been focused on comprehension, which is listening and reading. I don't do any speaking, I don't do any writing. And even still, totally ignoring speaking and writing, which is like obviously a huge part to language learning. I'm not even conversationally fluent in terms of understanding what people are telling me. So in terms of like my comprehension ability, again, it's just like, it's so hard to measure this. I really feel like I can read Japanese. It is a struggle. I do have to look up words all the time, but like I don't need to use Google Translate to read Japanese, which is something to be really proud of, I feel like, even though it's a struggle the whole way and I'm really slow. So in terms of like listening, again, it's super hard to measure like how much you're actually comprehending when you're listening, especially when like listening has that component of context where you see what's going on and you implicitly understand that. But I feel like more and more, I'm really starting to get like whole sentences of comprehension in. I'm not at a level where I could just turn something on and kind of phase out. Like I have to be completely focused, or else it just goes back into white noise. So I haven't done any JLPT specific study, but I feel like I'm between N4 and N3. I don't think I'm N3 yet, but I definitely feel like I'm above N4. So that's kind of like where I am. Like I said, I haven't actually spent any time taking tests or anything. I will say one of my goals is to pass the N1, which is the highest level of the JLPT, if for no other reason, just to like flex a bit. Just as like a quick primer on like what immersion is, immersion learning for languages. This is basically the idea that whenever like you were a child, you learned a language, you weren't studying it explicitly. You were getting lots of input for what the language is. Maybe your parents said, oh, look, there is a chair. Eventually you hear that is a chair so many times that you form a connection that, hey, this thing is a chair in the many forms that the chair may be. And like the chair is distinguished from a sofa. You pick up all these different things over time, learning your first language. And so the idea of immersion learning is, hey, you are an adult now, you can actually actively study, but you're not going to be able to like subconsciously be able to process language as fast as language really comes if you're not doing immersion as well. And so what I try to do with immersion learning is you do some amount of active study, and then that active study will go straight into immersion, where you try to hear what you've studied, the grammar points you've studied, the words you've studied. As you hear it in context, you start to build up all of the things around that thing. So once you get one thing down, you can put something else on top of it. You learn the word for chair. Now, like, let's say somebody's talking about a red chair and you don't know the word for red. Then you hear like something chair, they're pointing at a red chair. Maybe you figure out from that, oh, hey, this adjective means red, it's modifying the chair. And then you just start to build up more and more and more of the language as you go with immersion. So that's like the high level concept of what I'm trying to do. All right, so with my current ability out of the way, let's go into the as quick as possible journey of what I've done so far to learn Japanese. Yeah, so this book is the first place I ended up, Japanese from Zero. I found Mr. George Trombley on the YouTube, and really like that whole system really clicked with me. It was a lot of fun to go through those videos and stuff. And I think I probably did this for around 100 to 200 hours. It's hard to say. Well, I did textbooks. I did Japanese from Zero books 1 and 2. I was doing Duolingo, which was hilarious. I was doing like writing exercises. I mean, like at this point, that's like a pretty small part of like the total time I've spent learning Japanese. But I feel like all that stuff was pretty important to set the stage for eventually when I would start going into immersion learning. I didn't really do any immersion in this time period. I listened to a couple podcasts in the background, but like really I was grinding the textbooks and grinding the video series on Japanese from Zero. Yeah, so that whole period was around March to May of 2020. And then I took a big break where, I didn't feel like Japanese from Zero was like pushing me forward in the way I wanted to. Like I didn't feel satisfaction after doing like some of the book 2 stuff. Like I felt like I was learning, but the learning wasn't like getting me anything. It wasn't, it was like for its own sake, right? My knowledge, like my extra knowledge gains didn't actually attribute to me being able to do new things I wasn't able to do before. So I think like that kind of led me to put it down for a while. So now we get to March of 2021, and this is when I started immersion. So I was like kind of taking in some stuff about Japanese learning while on break from Japanese. And when it came back to like saying, okay, I really want to give this a shot, I had fully like acquired, so to speak, like the mantra of immersion learning. And so I decided to throw Japanese from Zero to the wayside, even though I did buy all the books, and not use that anymore, and started, you know what, I'm just going to immerse. So from here, I pulled up my time tracker and I tracked all the time, and you will see that chart right here. It's about 1,100 hours of time I've tracked learning Japanese. Again, that's starting from March of 2021. So it's been about like 10 months, maybe almost 11 months since I restarted my journey in Japanese. So yeah, if we look at my like last 12 months chart in terms of hours, you'll see that it took me a bit to ramp up into my current pace. My goal for each month is to get 100 hours or more. And that's kind of like my minimum goal. You'll see that there's been several months where I've gone up almost into 120, which I think is good. But a couple months, it's right at about 100. I feel like January, I'm absolutely crushing it. I'm having a lot of fun doing immersion. So this is probably going to be my my record month. But yeah, I mean, look, I have a full-time job. I have other hobbies. So I feel like my 100 hours per month is a pretty aggressive pace for like the pace of my life. This is not like a 1 hour a day thing. I'm putting 3 or 4 hours a day in most days of the week. And I feel like, the time I've spent is reflected in my progress. Like, I feel like I've come quite a long way. Yeah, so also to be fair, in March, which I know kind of looks disastrous, I did start March 16th or 17th is when I like started tracking my time. So that is only half a month. But to be fair, it took me quite a long time to build up like the stamina to watch Japanese content, listen to Japanese without like getting headaches and stuff, if I'm being honest. So yeah, I did eventually build up that stamina, and I've been able to keep that pace ever since. For this next segment, what I want to do is go through all of my hours that I've tracked so far and just kind of talk about what I did for each of these segments to like try to explain my method. First, we've got active listening. This is like the bread and butter of immersion learning. And for me, this was primarily watching YouTube and watching Twitch, all in Japanese, no English subtitles. So I'm watching, I'm trying to understand what they're saying as best as I can to the best of my ability. For me, I tried to watch anime. Like I said, I wasn't really into anime before, but I don't know. It's not really for me. I think I have like less than 20 hours of anime. In English, YouTube and Twitch is like my favorite thing. You know, like I don't watch like serialized TV either before in English. When I came to Japanese, that's like what I want to watch. And so it's been nice, like once I started doing immersion, I'm watching what I want to watch right out of the get-go, even though I don't understand anything. And month to month, I'm getting better and better, and I'm understanding more and more of what I'm watching. So in terms of like, you know, of course, YouTube is vast in Japan. It's a lot of Minecraft, a lot of gaming in general. I've also recently been watching some VTubers. I'll watch some tech videos as well, like phone reviews or computer reviews or like electronics and stuff. Also, I found some pretty good success watching those like ASMR videos, but like I mostly stick away from like the ones where they like, you know, tickle your ears or whatever they want you to think. But some of those videos are like more like role play kind of stuff, and they'll actually have scripts attached. So that I found that to be really good for like slow, like they don't talk very fast, especially if like you've got the script, you can look at it after, and it's usually very clearly enunciated. So I really like those. When you're looking at YouTube, right, like a lot of videos I found, like the videos I've gravitated towards, like or channels I've gravitated towards, all have like really good audio, and that's because like I want to be able to hear pretty clearly. I've tried to avoid those like text-to-speech stuff. Like Japan has a lot, especially in like the gaming world, like these like random niche gaming videos will have that like text-to-speech thing, like just going really fast. I don't do any of those. But yeah, I mean, I was kind of surprised how many Japanese YouTubers have subtitles where it's like baked into the video. So I have some of those. Some channels, I just really like them anyway, and I watch them without the subs. And I feel like it's a good mix, right? Because even in the channels where they do have subs, it's not like a constant stream of subs. Like they'll just be like, maybe there's a funny moment, they'll put the sub up and then it'll go away for a bit while they do something else. So I think like compared to a lot of people who do anime primarily, I've had like a lot of no subs exposure. And I feel like that's beneficial to me, especially because like I want to watch YouTube anyway. Like this, like for the most part, I'm not watching anything that I'm not like interested in or I don't want to watch just for like purely for language gains. So in that regard, I feel like I've done pretty well to find like content that's interesting for me and engaging. Next, I've got 89 hours of passive listening. So basically, compared to active listening, passive is just this idea of you're doing something else and you're going to play Japanese in the background to try to trigger your subconscious brain to pick up things in immersion. But I've found that like listening to podcasts, especially like tech podcasts, which is a lot of what I do in English, it's hard to get a lot out of it when you don't have like the visual context. And my Japanese is not, it's really not good enough to understand podcasts. I've done some experimenting with trying to listen to like YouTube videos that I always watch in the background with passive. And I think I'd like to get more into that in the future. But really, like, if I'm being honest, I haven't really enjoyed passive listening a whole lot because like I just like English podcasts too much. I've cut out a lot of my English podcasts. So I'm really down to like just like the couple I like. But when I'm out and about, typically these days, like I go for the stuff I like. So yeah, not a lot of passive listening compared to what I really could do. If I was like really not listening to it, I didn't track it. So there's a lot of passive listening I didn't track as well. Next, I've got 144 hours of Anki. So quite a lot of Anki. Anki is a program which is very heavily used in the Japanese learning community. It does flashcards and it does spaced repetition flashcards. So the basic idea is that Anki keeps track of every individual card, and based off of whether you say you remembered it or you don't remember it, it figures out when the next optimal time to show you that piece of information is. And so all I have to do is configure my cards in Anki, what I want to learn in Anki, and then review it, and then it automatically figures out what stuff I need to review more or what stuff can wait till later because I've already got it down. The first thing I did for Anki was the 1,000 most common words in Japanese deck, and I did this at 16 cards per day, so 16 new words per day for all the 1,000 words. I did that in about 3 months, I think. I actually have a pretty negative review of the 1,000 most common word strategy, but like the reality is anything I would have done, like the time spent is progress, but by the end of those 3 months, I felt like I didn't really understand a lot of the words. I felt like my grammar was pretty bad. Instead of continuing to review that deck, I dropped it and I went to the Tango N5 sentence deck. So this is another pre-made deck that has, I think, around 1,000 sentences, whole sentences, that progressively introduce new words. I went down to 13 cards per day because I found it to be a little harder. And thankfully, from doing the 1,000 common words, I was able to get rid of a lot of cards in that deck. So I was able to complete it faster. And I felt like I got a lot out of the Tango N5, but again, I had already done 3 months of immersion at that point. So I was kind of like finally starting to study some grammar a bit explicitly. Like I was kind of sucked into this mindset of like, I don't have to study grammar at all, which I think was kind of bad. Like I should have done some grammar study. I was like only doing immersion. So this was kind of like my opportunity to start that. And I made a lot of progress during the N5 period. And then logically, I went to N4. So I did the Tango N4 deck, and I found that to be a lot harder than N5. I couldn't keep 13 cards a day, so I had to go down to 10 cards a day. I decided I was going to continue to review the N5 deck, which I actually still do to this day. I did complete the N4 deck last month, and additionally, on top of that, I started sentence mining, I think around 3 months ago. This is kind of like the end game for me. I really wanted to transition away from pre-made decks and to start to make my own custom flashcards based off of what I'm seeing in immersion. So sentence mining basically is like I'm watching a YouTube video, I hear a sentence, I understand it, but there's one word I don't know. So I look up that word and then I create a flashcard out of that word to like basically have there be one unknown part of the sentence, one unknown part that I have to memorize, and then that will go into my loop and I'll study that and I'll learn that word. And the power of that versus doing pre-made decks is that that is a word that I absolutely 100% saw while I was trying to understand something. So this is when like the things I'm studying started to cater towards my own interests in Japanese. In fact, like one of the first cards I made was like the word for pickaxe, which is kind of embarrassing that I had done like 6 or 7 months of Japanese. I had never looked up the word for pickaxe, and I had been watching Minecraft videos like literally the entire time. So this is like, I feel like I could have started sentence mining earlier. Or at the very least, like started looking up words, getting that into my flow a lot more earlier. Now that I've been doing sentence mining, I started with 6 cards a day in sentence mining, and now I'm up to 10 cards a day sentence mining. And I've had a lot of success with that. I'm still tweaking how I'm doing sentence mining. I don't like have it perfect yet, and I'm kind of like messing around with it too much because I'm a programmer and I'm like custom doing some stuff, which I probably shouldn't be doing. But yeah, I mean, that's Anki. Bit of a long explanation there, but this is where I've done the bulk of my like active study. I should also say that during Anki, I really try to make sure I have 100% comprehension of the sentence. So I found myself doing a lot of grammar study like during Anki, where like if I feel like, oh, I kind of get this, but I don't really get it, I'll go look up that grammar point and like kind of make that as a part of my Anki flow. So this is maybe why I have more time tracked in Anki than maybe like you would expect. Because like there's also some grammar lookups in there, like a lot of grammar lookups. So next, I want to talk about, this is like the big up and coming category. I'm really excited about this. This is reading. I've done 63 hours of reading. I was actually pretty scared to start reading. Reading, like it's so, it's just like freaking scary. Especially like you see a whole page of characters like you're trying to read like a book or something. And I just kept feeling like this sense of, oh, I'm not ready. Oh, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. And I kind of found that, hey, you know, this wasn't as scary as I thought. Now, again, I had done hundreds and hundreds of hours of active immersion at that point. So I did have a base already. But I do feel like maybe I could have started reading earlier. But now that I've been doing reading, I've done 63 hours so far. In those 63 hours, I have made a ton of progress with reading. Like, I feel like I can legitimately like go and read a Japanese tweet or like a Japanese YouTube comment and have a pretty good chance of understanding like the general idea at the very least. Granted, I have the ability to look up every word in the sentence. But one of the big challenges I have for reading is like, unlike listening, which like I have a lot of YouTube channels I really like, I don't really have anything I really like yet for reading. I've tried like visual novels, light novels. I've done some like Japanese Twitter reading sessions and like YouTube comment reading sections. And I don't know, I mean, nothing has really grabbed me in the same way that I really enjoy watching YouTube in Japanese. So I think maybe partially it's just like I need to continue to get better at reading and I need to like force myself to get better to like enjoy it more. But yeah, I mean, this next year I want to have a lot more reading, and I've been doing it so far. All right, so we're gonna rapid fire through my other like small miscellaneous categories. So to be clear, I counted all of this stuff in my 1100 hours. Maybe you could say, oh, don't count that, you know, kind of lame. But no, I'm counting it, damn it. I worked on this. So yeah, 3.5 hours of Wanikani. So Wanikani is like Anki alternative. This was like, I tried Wanikani right when I first started. Dropped it for Anki, and I'm definitely glad I did. I obviously really like Anki, but it is kind of funny to like reflect on. It's literally 3.5 hours, and when I dropped Wanikani, I was like so nervous that like, oh my god, I'm losing so much progress. It's kind of hilarious now. So I've got 8 hours of grammar guide. So this was maybe like 4 months in, I think. I was thinking, okay, you know what I really need to do is just like read grammar stuff like top to bottom, so to speak. And so I was reading or like I was just like looking up grammar points, like making it like a specific session. And I kind of abandoned that, and now I'm doing a lot of, while I'm immersing, I look up grammar. While I'm doing Anki, I look up grammar. So I don't do any like grammar specific, like only grammar anymore. Which I think is way better to do it my new way. So next I've got 8 hours, what I call coding for Japanese. Yeah, I mean, I probably messed around easily like 3 times more than these 8 hours. But yeah, I mean, I've written, like as a programmer myself, I've done some custom stuff for Anki. I've done custom like bash scripts to do like creating flashcards and stuff. And I've also done, like I tried to write a program to do like Twitch chat frequency analysis, like word frequency analysis, and I've done some like video parsing stuff. I've done like a lot of BS. Oh, I also did, this totally failed, but I tried to do a Minecraft like flashcard deck where I took the translated copy of the Minecraft blocks and then like the English version of the translation file, and then I combined them and I created flashcards out of them, which did work. But, you know, then I started going through it and I was like, this is so dumb. Like, why do I need to know, like, crimson wood half slab, you know? That maybe was a bit ambitious for something I actually needed. So yeah, lots of fun with coding. I am going to do more coding, but this is not learning. Let's be clear. But it's fun. All right, next, we've got 24 hours, and this is what I'm calling learning content. This is like kind of like my catch-all for kind of wasting time in the Japanese learning community in general. I've also probably spent easily triple this too, just like screwing around, maybe even like 5x, I don't know. With the Japanese learning community in general, I've actually had a ton of insecurity about like really coming to terms with what my own process looks like. Like, you'll find pretty much somebody who's like actually made it, who's gotten fluent in Japanese, saying pretty much everything. You know, people, I mean, like, you'll see people who say, oh, only speak, you know, only do reading, only do listening. Oh, you can't use Anki. Anki is a disaster. Of course you have to use Anki. How would you learn it without Anki? I mean, like, every single opinion's out there. And so, you know, even like I'm, you know, sharing my story, I'm pretty confident about my process and how it works for me. But even still, I mean, even to this day, I still have like, oh my God, I should be reading more. Oh my God, I'm not paying enough attention while I'm immersing. Oh my God, I don't look up words enough. Oh my God, I should be looking at more grammar. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. It's taken a certain sense of like self-control and like self-reflection to be able to push past people pulling you in all kinds of different directions about like what your Japanese learning should look like. And if I wasn't able to do that, I would have quit a long time ago. Okay, yeah, so that was my 1,100 hours of Japanese immersion so far. We're gonna wrap up here with a quick little going forward for 2022, what I want my Japanese learning to look like. Yeah, first thing, kind of like pretty easy. I want to get better at sentence mining. I didn't talk about monolingual at all, but I'm starting to do some monolingual definitions, starting to integrate that more and more, and I'm starting to sentence mine with them more and more. So yeah, hopefully I'll also continue to write some new scripts to improve my ability to make cards from YouTube specifically, which is the vast majority of my cards. Want to do way more reading in 2022. I set this goal to do at least double the time that I spend in Anki, I want to spend in reading for 2022. And I'm sure I'll crush that. Yeah, I want to continue my 100 hours per month goal as well. People who know me know I don't like streaks, and I've actually like missed tons of Anki days. Like, I've probably missed like 20 this last year, but I get back on, you know, pretty easily. You know, like sometimes I don't do Japanese in a day, but you know what? I hit my 100 hours a month, and sometimes I crush that. So yeah, we're gonna keep that up, keep the consistency. And yeah, another thing I didn't mention is I want to reduce my use of Google Translate / DeepL to do like translation of sentences, especially when I've been reading. I'm using that as a crutch a lot, where I feel like I'm really, really close to understanding the meaning of the sentence. And that's kind of when I trigger to pop into DeepL and get the answer, you know, so to speak. Of course, it's like the answer. Yeah, well, I have found a good bit of value in doing that. I think it's overall something I should be stepping away from and not making that like a super big habit for me. Like during my reading sessions, I'll probably use DeepL like 10 times in like an hour. So it's not like I'm popping every single sentence in there, but I would like to continue to decrease that over time. Yeah, and so honestly, I don't know if I'm going to do output in 2022. I feel like if I start to get really good comprehension in YouTube gaming content, then maybe, hey, I'll try to go play games in Japanese and try to talk to Japanese people while I do it. That's really like the avenue I see, which is kind of funny. I mean, I don't actually play games anymore, to be honest. But like maybe that could be like a route I take to try to start getting good at speaking in like a context that I've been building up all this time. If I decide to maybe go to Japan, I will start to make output a big priority before that point, just to make sure I've gotten some output training before I go. But I don't know when that would be. Of course, I want to go as soon as I can. But as we all know, it is Corona season since March of 2020. So yeah, I will go when I can. And as of right now, output is not on my list for 2022. So yeah, that's going to wrap up this video. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully it wasn't too long. I've been recording for an hour. Hopefully that'll get trimmed down quite a lot. Yeah, I mean, like I've said it so many times in this video, but I'm really proud of what I've managed to do in Japanese up to now. It's really exceeded my expectations, if I'm being honest. Like, yeah, I can't like actually talk to people. I can't understand everything, but you know what? I'm having fun in Japanese. I'm like watching YouTube. I understand some shit. I'm looking up words. I'm learning more and more every day. I mean, like the last month has just been so much fun it's because like I'm at this midway point in Japanese learning where I've learned the basics, and now like there's so much still left to learn in like the common everyday vernacular that every time I pick up a new word, I'm like seeing it the same day. And I think the next 1,000 hours is going to be really exciting like that. I see how if I continue to do what I've been doing, I'm going to continue to improve. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Please don't watch the rest of the videos on this channel. They're pretty random. Yeah, peace. Yeah, I mean, I really didn't like talk about half the shit I wanted to talk about. What the hell, dude?